Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Have you ever wondered why some of the greatest innovators, leaders, and changemakers seem to break the rules, but never the law? Think about Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, or even the Wright brothers. They didn't succeed by blindly following the status quo. Instead, they challenged conventional thinking, questioned outdated norms, and dared to do things differently. Today, I want to talk about the power of breaking the rules, but not the law. Inspired by Simon Sinek's philosophy, we'll explore how questioning the way things have always been done can lead to breakthroughs, innovation, and true leadership. Because the truth is, progress doesn't come from blindly following. It comes from courageously challenging. So let's dive in and discover how we can break the rules, think differently, and lead with purpose. Imagine a world where nobody questioned the way things were done. No inventions, no breakthroughs, no progress. Just the same routines followed blindly for generations. Yet, every great advancement in history has come from someone who refused to accept the status quo. They looked at the way things had always been done and asked, "Is this really the best way?" This ability to challenge the status quo is what sets apart true leaders and innovators from those who simply follow the crowd. From business to science, from art to social change, progress is driven by those who dare to question. Think about the story of the Wright brothers. In a time when flight was considered impossible, they refused to believe the skeptics. They didn't have formal education in engineering, yet they studied, experimented, and tested new ideas until they created the first successful airplane. They didn't break the law, but they certainly broke the rules of conventional wisdom at the time. Had they accepted the status quo, human flight might have taken decades longer to become a reality. Steve Jobs is another prime example. When he introduced the first iPhone, people told him it wouldn't work. The industry standard was physical keyboards, and the idea of an all-touchscreen phone seemed ridiculous. But Jobs didn't just follow the industry norms. He challenged them. He believed that people didn't know what they needed until they saw it. By questioning the status quo, he revolutionized communication and redefined what a phone could be. Challenging the status quo doesn't mean being reckless or rebellious for the sake of it. It's about looking at existing systems, questioning whether they still serve their purpose, and having the courage to suggest a better way. Many companies, institutions, and traditions operate on outdated models simply because that's the way it's always been done. But when people start asking why, they open the door to innovation. Consider Netflix. When it first started, Blockbuster was the dominant force in movie rentals. The standard model was renting physical DVD from a store, with late fees if they weren't returned on time. Netflix questioned this approach. Why should customers have to go to a store? Why should they pay late fees? Instead of following the industry's norms, they created a subscription-based model and later pioneered streaming services. Blockbuster, stuck in its old ways, failed to adapt and eventually disappeared. The same principle applies not just to business, but to leadership as well. Simon Sinek often talks about how great leaders inspire action by challenging traditional leadership models. Instead of using authority and fear, they lead with purpose and vision. Traditional leadership says employees should work for their bosses, but true leaders flip the script. They work for their employees, creating an environment of trust and inspiration. This simple shift in perspective is a challenge to the norm, yet it is what makes organizations thrive. History has shown us time and time again that the greatest movements were started by those who refused to accept things as they were. Martin Luther King Jr. challenged the deeply ingrained system of racial segregation, not by breaking laws, but by breaking the unspoken societal rules that upheld injustice. His leadership wasn't about mere defiance. It was about showing a better way forward. The ability to challenge the status quo is also crucial on an individual level. How often do we stay in situations, jobs, or mindsets simply because we feel we have no choice? How often do we follow paths that don't fulfill us, just because society tells us they're the right ones? People who achieve extraordinary things in life often start by questioning whether the rules they are following are truly serving them. Take Elon Musk, for example. Before Tesla, the automotive industry had a rigid model, with gas-powered cars dominating the market. Electric cars were seen as slow, impractical, and unprofitable. Musk questioned these assumptions. He asked, why can't electric cars be fast? Why can't they be desirable? By pushing against these industry norms, Tesla transformed the automobile industry and forced even traditional manufacturers to rethink their approach. Breaking the status quo requires courage. It means facing criticism, resistance, and sometimes failure. Many people are uncomfortable with change, and those who challenge the norm are often met with skepticism or even hostility. But every major innovation or breakthrough began with someone daring to ask, is there a better way? The key to challenging the status quo effectively is not to reject tradition blindly, but to evaluate whether existing methods and beliefs still serve a purpose. Some traditions are valuable, but many persist simply because nobody has thought to question them. By cultivating curiosity and a willingness to explore new possibilities, individuals and organizations can unlock potential they never knew existed. Whether in business, leadership, or personal growth, questioning the status quo is the first step toward innovation. Taking risks is often seen as a necessary ingredient for success, but there is a crucial distinction between reckless risk-taking and calculated, ethical risk-taking. The best leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators understand that breaking the rules doesn't mean breaking their integrity. They know that pushing boundaries is essential for progress. But they also recognize that ethical constraints are not limitations. They are guiding principles. One of the most common misconceptions about success is that it requires bending or breaking the law. However, history has shown that true sustainable success comes from those who take bold risks while staying within ethical and legal boundaries. Consider the story of Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin Group. He built a multi-billion-dollar empire by challenging conventional industries, whether it was airlines, telecommunications, or music. Branson was never afraid to take risks, but he always emphasized integrity. He disrupted industries by offering better services, pricing, and customer experiences, not by cutting corners or engaging in unethical behavior. In contrast, there are countless examples of individuals and businesses that crossed ethical lines in pursuit of success, only to face severe consequences. The Enron scandal, for example, is a reminder that breaking the law in the name of success leads to downfall. The company took financial risks that were not just bold but deceptive, ultimately leading to one of the biggest corporate collapses in history. The key difference between companies like Enron and ethical risk-takers like Branson is that the latter understood that long-term success depends on trust, reputation, and integrity. Taking risks within ethical boundaries is not just about avoiding legal trouble, it's about leading with purpose and credibility. When Elon Musk introduced Tesla and SpaceX, he was taking enormous financial and technological risks. Many experts doubted the feasibility of his ventures. Sure, traditional automakers dismissed the idea of a successful electric car company, and space agencies viewed private space travel as unrealistic. But Musk didn't let industry norms hold him back. He took risks that others were unwilling to take, but he did so without violating ethical principles. He didn't mislead investors, falsify data, or take shortcuts. He simply believed in his vision and pushed forward, even when failure seemed imminent. A key factor in ethical risk-taking is transparency. Leaders and businesses that communicate openly about the risks they are taking tend to build trust. Consider Jeff Bezos and the launch of Amazon. When he first started, the idea of an online bookstore seemed risky. Investors were skeptical, and competitors in traditional retail dismissed e-commerce as a passing trend. Bezos took a bold risk by betting on the long-term potential of the internet. However, he was transparent with his team and investors, emphasizing that growth would take time. His willingness to take risks without misleading stakeholders helped Amazon grow into one of the most successful companies in history. Taking ethical risks isn't just for business leaders, it applies to individuals as well. Many people stay in safe, comfortable situations because they fear stepping into the unknown. Whether it's changing careers, starting a business, or pursuing a passion, taking risks is a necessary part of growth. But the difference between reckless risk-taking and smart risk-taking is preparation. The most successful individuals don't take blind leaps of faith. They gather information, weigh their options, and make informed decisions. They understand that pushing past comfort zones is necessary, but they also ensure that they do so with integrity. One of the best examples of ethical risk-taking can be found in the world of sports. Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest boxers of all time, took an enormous risk when he refused to be drafted into the Vietnam War. He was stripped of his titles and faced years of legal battles, but he never wavered in his beliefs. Ali didn't break the law. He simply stood firm in his convictions, knowing that his decision would come at a great cost. His willingness to take a moral stand, even when it put his career on the line, is a powerful example of how true leaders take risks without compromising their principles. In every field, from science to entertainment to social activism, the most influential figures are those who have taken risks while maintaining their ethical core. Oprah Winfrey, for instance, took a massive risk by leaving a traditional news career to start her own talk show. She challenged the norms of the television industry, creating a platform focused on personal growth, inspiration, and difficult conversations. Her willingness to take a chance on a new format paid off, but she never resorted to unethical practices to achieve her success. Instead, she built her brand on authenticity and trust. Another example is Malala Yousafzai, who took one of the greatest risks imaginable, standing up for education rights in a country where doing so put her life in danger. Malala broke societal norms but never acted outside ethical boundaries. Her courage in challenging oppressive systems serves as a reminder that risk-taking is not just about business or innovation. It's also about standing up for what's right. Taking risks within ethical boundaries is about knowing when to challenge the rules and when to respect the principles that uphold trust and integrity. Ethical risk-takers understand that rules and systems are not always meant to be followed blindly. However, they also recognize that cutting corners, engaging in dishonesty, or violating ethical standards ultimately leads to failure. By pushing boundaries with integrity, they inspire others and create lasting impact.